Guys, if you want an insight into voice notes, this is that video. Um, I'm joined by Tori today, and we have spent the last few months WhatsApping voice notes to each other because we are on one hell of a journey. And I thought, do you know what? This conversation is going to be so relatable to so many people that we need to do it on YouTube. Tori, hello.
Hello.
Thanks for coming on. Now, you are officially transitioned from PR powerhouse to spinal energetics practitioner and a coach, as like a mindset sort of coach as well, right? That's been a journey for you, hasn't it? And I know through like the WhatsApp conversations that we've had that for both of us, that sort of like identity crisis
hmm
is really common. And I know so many people that follow me on Instagram and watch my YouTube, they're going through similar, whether that's through like period recovery, disordered eating recovery, or mum life or whatever. It seems to be the thing that holds us back is this identity crisis. And then eventually the universe just forces it upon us, right?
Yeah.
Can we just start by you sharing your journey with this? And maybe I'll jump in about like how that, because we are so on the same path right now, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's scary. Guys, we just shared together that from the end of June, our work will change even more. And I was like, so Tori said that to me from June. And I was like, oh my God, mate, me too. It's
Yeah.
so strange, hasn't it? That this whole journey, we've literally been like, me too. Oh my God, me too. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'll shut up and, you start by telling us your journey.
Yeah. You also need to jump in because this is like the longest story ever. And I can honestly go on for like 30 minutes. And I feel like you just need to interject when you
Okay.
think something's relevant. But okay. When I was 24, I'd worked in the kind of corporate world or in PR for a couple of years. And then I don't know what my younger self was just so. I look back at that now and I'm like, wow, I think maybe because I was on such a low salary, like the literal entry level back then, that it really couldn't get any worse. So it was less risk. But I basically one day was like, I'm just going to do this by myself. So I started taking on PR clients. I was just messaging brands on Instagram, like, I'll do PR for cheaper than an agency. And yeah, so I started doing PR, which I've now done for 6 years. And that was all wellness brands. That's also how we met,
Yeah, it
maybe.
was. Yeah.
And we've worked on so many of the same brands as
It's so
well.
strange, isn't it? Like we've literally just sort of like been like this together, like
Yeah,
followed each other. It's literally like we're on the same path, just like next to each other. It's so strange.
literally. But we
And
only realized that recently.
yeah. And it's even like similar to you. I was on a low end, like entry level salary, and I just thought, why don't I just do this myself?
Literally the same. And now I look back and I'm like, wow, that was quite ballsy but I think also, yeah, it made so much sense at the time. And I think that's often what happens is you think that, oh, how am I going to figure this out? How am I going to come up with an idea? But really what happens is one day something just does it makes sense. And then you just have to trust and follow that direction.
I've also always known that I'm not meant to be in a 9 to 5 employed.
Yeah.
I honestly, it was my mum was the reason why I took the job. So I got headhunted at ProDirect. And they were like, we think we've got a job for you. Like, we think you'd be a really good fit. And mum was like, take it. Like, this never happens. Take this opportunity. Go in, learn about it. And then you can be. And I'm like, nah, I'm a personal trainer. Blah, blah, blah. I've got this good business. Mum was like, you have to. We had so many arguments. I went in and I have to say, I obviously learned so much to
Yeah.
then be able to go on and be self employed. But for me, I just knew I was never meant to be in a 9 to 5.
Yeah, I can't really remember. I think I kind of idolized this idea of going into London and like going to the office and like, I don't know, just what you kind of imagine, especially when I would watch like The Hills and things like that. I was like, oh, I'm going to work for a magazine. And that's what I kind of wanted to do. But then I remember I was working in Finsbury Park and I lived in Putney. So it was like an hour commute each way. And I just really, really struggled with being in an office 5 days a week, because also I'm very productive. So I would get loads of stuff done, and then I'd just kind of sit there like, I'm burning myself out if I go this hard for 8 hours and I have to sit here. And so I had like digestive issues and just chronic anxiety, which wasn't because of work, but it was the whole thing. And I remember asking like, oh, can I work from home one day a week? And they were like, okay, but you have to keep it a secret. This was obviously before COVID, like just you. And then they'd put a meeting in every day that I was meant to work from home. So I'd have to come in. So it just, didn't really work out. So that kind of contributed to, I remember going on holiday with a girl who was a freelance social media manager. And I was thinking, oh, this is the life. Like we're in Bali. She's just like on her emails. And so that was actually the trip that when I got home, I handed in my notice.
Wow, that's cool, isn't it?
But yeah, so I did PR for 6 years, but in 2023, which was the start of my Saturn return, I guess if people
Tell
don't
us
know
what a Saturn return is, yeah.
Yeah, so your Saturn return is basically, I'm obviously not an astrologer, but it's when Saturn returns to the same point in the sky that it was when you were born, which is around every 28 to 30 years. And that can often come with big shifts. So if you're not living in alignment, you get like shifted onto the path that you're meant to be on. And so that can look dramatic, like moving country, having a big breakup, or getting a
How
new
many years
job.
did you say? Sorry.
Pardon?
How often?
Like 28 to 30 years. So the next one will be when you're around like 56,
So
50.
that would align with like the whole midlife crisis vibes.
Yes, probably. And then if you live long enough, then you'll get a third one.
But when we're like 100 and we're like traveling the world.
Yeah. But it makes me think like, oh God, what's going to happen then?
Yeah.
But I think maybe the future ones are more reflective, but I don't know that for sure. So yeah, basically, it doesn't need to be that dramatic though. It can be more subtle, because I was then like, waiting for it like, oh my God, my life's going to explode. But it actually wasn't necessarily all in one go. So yeah, around that time, I went to a tarot reader, and I'd started doing the PR for retreats because I wanted to go on retreats. And I was actually really enjoying my job. It wasn't that I didn't enjoy it. It was just I had this like feeling, I don't think I'm meant to be doing this forever. And people would say, oh, your PR business is doing really well. Do you want to grow a team? Are you going to become an agency? And I just had no desire at all, but I couldn't explain it. And I felt like, oh, maybe I'm scared. Maybe I love working alone, even though I think I do like working with other people, but I was just I like to just have it my way and just do what I wanted to do. And so I was like, oh no, I don't really want to grow a team. And yeah, I wasn't really sure why that was. And so I went to this tarot reader for the first time. I don't think I'd been to one before, in April 2023. And I said this to him, like, oh, I don't really think I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing, but I don't really know what that is. And I think if I'd asked myself, actually, what do I want to do? I probably would have said a therapist, because when I was at school, I always wanted to be a therapist, but I had really bad OCD and anxiety throughout my whole childhood, teens, etc. And so I just thought that I would get whatever I learned about if I studied psychology. So I thought if I learned about schizophrenia, I'd become schizophrenic. Like I didn't want to know about it really.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it sounds, now I'm like, oh, that wouldn't happen. But at the time I was too scared to study it. So yeah, I think that's what I wanted to do. And he said, oh, I think a therapist or a coach, but not that, it's something with your hands. And I was honestly like, what, like a masseuse? I don't even like rubbing sun cream in people's backs. And also, like, even through this journey, like being in people's space, like that's such an intimate thing. And I think I had such a fear of kind of, what if like I touch them and they're like, what's she doing? Or like all of these things in my head. So that's obviously why I would never consider that at the time. And he was like, oh, I think maybe like EFT, so like tapping. And I was like, oh, that sounds really boring. Honestly, So I walked away and I was like, interesting. And then the whole rest of the journey basically is me ending up working with my hands in that kind of space.
Yeah, so you now do spinal energetics, don't you?
Yeah.
But
And
throughout
EFT.
do you? But
Yeah.
throughout that journey, you mentioned about suffering from really bad anxiety, and I know you talk about that across, like, the internet as well, and actually, as someone that gets married next month, you spoke about, like, the anxiety you experience, like,
Mhm.
about getting married, and, like, you hear stories, don't you, about, like, people that just go on, like, absolute benders before they get married because they're like that there is some form of anxiety. How have you worked? I know full well that there are tons of people that will watch this that do suffer from anxiety. How do you navigate that when you're going through fast-paced London careers? Like, how has that affected you, and how have you got through that?
I guess like anxiety is kind of something that's always been in my life or always was in my life. And I really saw it for a long time as like something that was like I was an anxious person and I'm just anxious. And so I'll touch on like the relationship thing as well.
And
But
how did the anxiety show up for you?
so throughout my childhood, I remember specific times, like every 4 years. So when I was about 6, I was the only child in the classroom who had like a teddy bear with handles and it had a little pouch in it and I would put like my blankie and things in there. And I was the only child that had something like an emotional support toy in the classroom. My mum had to wave at the window every single time she dropped me off. Otherwise I would freak out. Like one time she drove half the way home, realized she forgot and came back. I would just like I was just so I guess it's like attached. I was
Attachment type thing,
yeah,
yeah.
attached. And then when I was 10, I remember having depression, which sounds crazy for a 10-year-old, but I can only remember that as just sitting watching TV in my mum's bed. I used to just sit there and watch The Simpsons. I don't know if you're allowed to watch Simpsons at 10, but can't remember what the age is on that. And I just had this really low feeling. And then 14, I remember I was like really scared of school. So I just felt like I was going to be sick every day. I didn't want to go to assembly because I felt really claustrophobic. I wanted to go home the whole time. And then when I was like 18, it showed up as insomnia. So then I couldn't sleep. So I'd get really paranoid about sleep and not being able to sleep. But I feel like the general feeling is like just constantly being on the edge, like constantly feeling like you almost have to hold on to everything really tightly because anything could just push you into this overwhelm. And then when that happened, I would just like cry all the time. I was too scared to kind of do things with friends and work because I just felt like I didn't have any time to rest. But then when I tried to rest, my brain wouldn't switch off. So I would then try and have like a good night's sleep and I'd wake up just exhausted. So yeah.
Have you ever found out, like, have you ever dived into, like, the causes?
Mm, so that's kind of where this journey's taken me because I went to like doctors, therapists, everything. And eventually, when I was 23, this therapist was like, I don't think I can help you anymore. Like, I would just come back with a different worry every couple of weeks. And it would be things like worrying about friendships. And it wasn't anything dramatic, although I did have periods of OCD and like intrusive thoughts and things. And she was like, you need to go to the doctor. So I remember going to the doctor and he was like, you shouldn't be dealing with this all the time. And so he put me on antidepressants for the first time. And to be fair, they actually completely gave me my life back. I felt like I could just function like a normal human. And actually, I haven't come off them. It's something that I want to do because my understanding of anxiety has changed, but I haven't quite figured out. It's a lot more complicated
But
than
they do say, don't they,
just
like, sometimes it's not, and I mean, I'm speculating, obviously, but I have heard before that sometimes it's not something that's happened to you, it's a brain chemistry thing.
so I now don't see it as that. So when I went
Okay.
on them, the doctor was like, "Oh, your brain's just got an imbalance in it of serotonin or whatever it was." And I believed that for ages, and I would tell friends who were thinking about antidepressants, I'd be like, "It's fine, like just like somebody with diabetes needs insulin, like you just need your antidepressant. But over time, so at first I read this book about loneliness and
What's the book called?
depression. It was called Lost Connections by Johann Hari. And I remember being quite triggered by it because he was suggesting that it was basically the opposite of my belief system about anxiety. But it was saying that addiction and depression are caused by loneliness. I've got shivers actually saying that as well.
I also have had shivers. Yeah. I've just got goosebumps.
Yeah, and I've been on a few over the last few years. I remember going on a retreat and doing this breathwork session, and I felt like really emotional after, but like no tears were coming. And the lady said to me, "Were you lonely as a child?" And I burst into tears. So I think there's like this, I have this like, it's a whole other story, but like existential loneliness, because I don't really feel like I relate to a lot of people, and I don't have a lot of the people that I need like consistency and deep, meaningful chats all the time. And there's not a lot of people that want to go deep all the time. And I don't necessarily have them I've met people that I have stuff in common with like that, but they're not necessarily in my immediate circle every week.
Yeah.
So
Me and you aren't going for a daily coffee to go through, are we?
But that's a whole other thing. But yeah, so I took that to this psychiatrist, and she was like, "Oh no, given your history, you need to be on medication for life." And so I was kind of like, "Oh, okay." And so I kind of carried on, but then through the last couple of years and through that Saturn return, which we haven't really spoken about, like the things that have happened yet, through spinal energetics, actually, I came to this realization one day that, so I basically I was having this dream, and in the dream, I was banging the bed with my fist, going, "I haven't done anything wrong." And my husband was like, "What is going on over there?" And it just made me realize, like, oh, I have anger in me, and it's never something I've considered. I would never have thought that before. And I started to just like put pieces together. And I think it's just something to do with like not having your needs met. They talk about that a lot. There's like Gabor Mate and other doctors, authors, etc. They speak about how trauma is not necessarily something huge. It's not the thing that happened to you. It's like what happened or what you made that mean about yourself. So it could be as simple as, you know, inconsistency in not care, but like
parenting. Like
parenting, friendships, you know, like constantly kind of being on edge. It could be, yeah, not knowing what mood people were going to be in, etc. Especially if you're very sensitive as a child, and so that creates then this hypervigilance, and it's very complex. There's loads of books again about that. That lady who on Instagram who's called the something holistic psychologist,
okay.
Nicole something. She has a book about it, about the inner child, which I've been listening to. And it's just really interesting about how we develop different attachment styles, which can influence, basically we're all just our inner children still looking for our needs to be met.
But I do think that there is also a lot of, what am I trying to say? There's a lot of misconception around what an inner child is, right? Seeing this a lot in that an inner child is the younger you that interpreted things because as kids, the whole world revolves around ourselves. So like we've interpreted something as a child that doesn't necessarily mean it's true, but at that time, that's how we interpreted that as truth. And I think often what I'm seeing a lot of now is people talking about inner child as if that is factual. So they had, and obviously I know it's factual to them as a child, but like, you know, people talking about their childhood and talking about parenting, and this is the reason why I am the way I am. And it's like, yeah, but you've also got to remember that as a child, we see things totally differently. So when, I don't know, it rattles me a bit when I see people talking about inner childs, talking about all of this huge trauma that they've had as childhood. And it's like, no, you just interpreted it as that. And I'm not taking that away from someone, but I just feel like there's a lot now of like, I feel like there's a lot around targeting parents, isn't there? Around like, oh my God, my childhood was like this, my childhood was like this. And it's like, well, it was because you interpreted it as that. But
Yeah.
as an adult, if you look back at that situation, you would know differently. And I just think that I feel like that's quite an important caveat around inner child. Is
Yeah, I think because children, you have to think like two children could experience the exact same. It's what happens with siblings a lot as well. Could experience the exact same experience and have completely different like internal responses to
yeah.
it,
Um,
depending on their like makeup and how they see the world and their sensitivity and different things. But also, what was I going to say about inner children? Yeah, I think we can sort of say, oh well, my childhood was really great, so I don't know why I feel this way. But it can literally be as simple as like as growing up, children don't have their frontal lobe
yeah.
like for several years, and they internalize everything as about them because from a survival point of view, if they were to think that their parents didn't have the capabilities to take care of them, that would be like life threatening. So they have to, if like mum's angry, it's their fault, etc. So children, yeah, it's more like if they didn't have that, it's not that parents shouldn't ever be like snap at their children. It's just do they then make up for it afterwards, and so that the child, I don't know,
Yeah,
feels
and I
safe.
guess there's different generations now, isn't it? Like we're as a generation, we are so aware of all of that. Whereas when we were younger, like flipping out, our parents were too busy to make ends meet, let alone read self-development books on, that book that's like the book you wish your parents read or something like that. Um, yeah, what was I going to say about inner child? Is gone. What
I
did?
do want to say something about antidepressants though before, like, just so that
Yeah,
I've
go
said
on.
it, is that I feel like just because we can make sense of what happened to us or what didn't, like, I don't really have that many memories, so I don't know a specific moment or anything. But just because we can make sense of a situation doesn't mean that we suddenly feel better. So that's why I would say, I've had this whole experience where I've learned so much about why I am the way I am, where my anxiety is from. I don't necessarily think it is just something that I have to deal with for the rest of my life, but it doesn't mean that I suddenly healed it overnight because I've had this understanding. It's like an ongoing process. So there's nothing wrong with taking something that helps you move through your daily life and to keep going on that healing journey.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, I've remembered the inner child thing about going back. You said about two children experiencing the same thing. I don't know what me and my brother experienced, apart from like, the classic, our parents split up. But like, that's something that I know we definitely
Yeah.
experienced when we were kids. Whether that's played a role, potentially, someone, if they want, can deep dive into it. I don't know if I'm that bothered about deep diving into it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel all our parents get along. Like, I'm in quite a happy place with our
Mm-hmm.
family and things. But if you look at me and my brother, so I've got two half brother and sister as well. But if you look at me and my actual like proper full blood brother, we actually have very, very similar traits, just completely different ends of the spectrum. So I went down health fitness route and became pretty obsessive and addicted. He went down drink route, partying route. And actually, when you
Mm-hmm.
look at it, there are exactly the same traits. We're just different ends of the spectrum. And I've often wondered, like, what are we both? What have we both dealt with in that sense? Again, like I'm not
Mm-hmm.
blaming my parents for anything. I'm talking about like what did we interpret as kids that meant that we then had like sort of addictive traits and addictive personalities. It fascinates me. But yeah, it's also one of those things that like I don't know. I've got a really good relationship with my parents right now, and I don't know if I want to like dive into
Yeah, exactly. And
that.
like, I think also it's not to like blame anyone, especially like, obviously, some people do have like actually physically abusive situations when they're growing up. But it's not to blame our, parents or anything, because also I'm like we're not going to be perfect, and there'll be times where you just do what you do in the moment. But it's just awareness, I
And
guess.
as a mum now, I think that so much in terms of like I've had to accept that I am going to mess him up in some way because I'm also I only know and can react based
Yeah,
on what I know now, right? So like that might change in the future and be like, oh yeah, I sorry, I shouldn't have done that. I always think like, if he walks up, so he can count now, bless him, from 3 to 10. Can't do 1, 2. He's only 2, and, like, I love it so much, and I'm so proud of him, but then I'm like this is also the issue with, like, when you, read so many self-development books and, like, we understand our generation, is I'm like, "Oh my god, should I be should I be praising him for when he doesn't know number 2? And should I only praise him when he's really good?"
yeah,
Like, there's so much now around, like, gentle parenting and when you should chill.
yeah,
Like, it can be so confusing, so I guess that also links into that whole, like, taking the antidepressants, like, if it works for you right now and you're not willing, or not even willing, like, you're just not in a place to go deep and to try to work out or rewire your brain right now and choosing, or maybe ever. Maybe you're not interested, but actually having a tablet that helps you live a life, then like you've just got to do what's right for you. Right?
yeah, for sure.
So for Saturn Return and how that has led from your PR stuff and moving into your spinal energetics, tell us about that.
So after that tarot reading, I think maybe 6 months or a bit less passed, and it got to October, and I got invited by another PR to go for a crystal healing, and the lady was like, "Oh, I don't know if you know this, but you have really strong healing abilities in your hands." I'm like, "Funny you should say that because another psychic, the last psychic I saw, said something about that," and I basically had received a WhatsApp from this pranic healing this lady who did a course. And I'd obviously been to her in 2021, but I didn't remember this at all. I don't even know why I went. I don't know why, like, that's why I was thinking, like, why does she have my number? But she sends out these broadcast messages all the time about her courses that she's been doing for ages. And I'd never received one in the 2 years that had gone by. So I took that as a sign. So I'd received that message like 2 days before this healing. I was like, right, okay, I'm booking that course. So I went to do this course, which was near my parents' house as well. And I really loved it. I learned a lot about kind of like energy healing, but I didn't necessarily resonate with that specific type. And so about 2 months later, I went to, like, this timeline in my head. I did my Reiki level 1 in Sri Lanka. So that actually was where, so in the December, I got engaged, and had started to come off my antidepressants about 2 months before. And I ended up, my body went into complete like fight or flight, basically. Like not during the engagement, but like 2 days after. And I was just having like, my hands were shaking, my pupils were dilated, like I was like fully panicked, and I couldn't understand why, because I was like, this is like not how it's meant to be. Like everyone says easiest yes of my life, and I had to mute everything that said like trust your gut or intuition on Instagram, because it would literally send this like jolt of like adrenaline through my body. And well, basically, that's kind of, then I obviously went on this journey which led back to the anxiety, is like all these things about inner children and stuff wanting to be safe. And I basically came to the realization that when I listened quietly under all this fear and panic, I wanted to get married. I was so afraid, I guess, of I don't know if it's like commitment, that hyper independence of like making the right decision. There was just so many layers. And also, I guess, this person who loved me so unconditionally wasn't as familiar to me. And so it was just like very, your body just has its own thing.
It's funny how like things show up, isn't it? A couple of years ago, I had a healing session with a lovely woman called Barbara, and I went so deep in this like sound healing. I can't remember. Was it Reiki she was doing, or was it? It was like a combo thing with like sound healing as well. I went so deep, right? And I swear to God, I'm not. I don't. I don't think I've made this up. Well, I haven't because it's in my head, right? But I swear to God, what happened is I remember going really deep and really deep and really deep to the sound, and then I feel like I was on a cloud, and I said, "No, no, no. Let me at least get married first." And then I came back down, and like that sounds so woo woo and so crazy, but since the wedding's creeping up, it's
Mm.
lived in my head that I've never said this out loud before. What if I die after I've got married?
Oh, what? Because you think that you
Because
need to
I
get
think,
married?
yeah, it felt like I'd gone up and it really freaked me out. Like after I came round, and it's like I think about it daily now coming up to the
What
wedding.
did the lady say?
I didn't share it with her.
Oh, I don't know.
No, and I thought I share it with her, but and her response, like even if I did share it with her, her response wasn't anything like she was
Yeah,
just
it could
like,
also it could be anything. It could be that
"I'm not
you're
gonna
gonna
die
change.
after I
You're
get."
gonna change. Maybe it's about changing career, and you're like, I need to get married first, so I feel stable.
Yeah, I
You know,
wish I
it
knew
could be
more,
anything.
but and it's interesting. It's like you know when you don't know, but I'm literally like as the time goes on, I'm like, oh my
Panicking
God,
about.
yeah, I'm getting married at the end of May, and that's soon. And what if I'm then meant to die after?
Yeah, I mean, then that's the intrusive thoughts kind of cycle, because it's like with intrusive thoughts and OCD, it's kind of clings on to the worst thing that could happen. So what happened to me was I basically it triggered my OCD, which I sort of hadn't appreciated I suffered with, but then when I reflect back and with a therapist, she was like, literally everything you've been through is OCD related. But I didn't appreciate that your thoughts are a form of OCD. So that constant, like, checking or looking for things that validate that scary thought. Um, so yeah.
Our our thoughts are truly wild though, aren't they? Like how else did some of this manifest for you? So for example, like, you know, my thoughts and deep rooted feelings of not being good enough manifested in sort of like that control around my food and my exercise and my steps. And I have to say, obviously it took me such a journey to get through that. But like, I am really grateful that I chose that route because it could have been a lot darker, right?
Yeah.
And like, I know so many people feel so stuck when it comes to that change. How did you embrace that change, whether that was like career change or like working through your anxiety or like, you know, you're married now. So you clearly went like worked through that anxiety.
I think it still comes with this rest of this Saturn Return journey. So maybe I'll
Okay.
keep going.
Keep going. Yeah.
So I did this course. Then, so after this engagement, I'd already booked a 3-week like solo trip to Sri Lanka. So I was like, can I still go? Even
Are you out of your Saturn return now?
yes,
Oh, okay.
I
Interesting.
think so. So I went to Sri Lanka, which actually gave me a good space so that I didn't have to deal with, you know, people congratulating me and all this stuff that would just like make me go ah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I did my Reiki level 1, and then I basically, oh my god, I've completely missed something. So before all of that, before this, after the tarot reader and the energy hat, I was working with retreats, obviously, and I went on this retreat in the May 2023, and the only free therapy was this guy who did
I
something
know
like
what
he
you're
was
going
an
to say.
energetic chiropractor, and he basically, we were in this circle and I was lying face down and I was so anxious. Like I just had this building of like anxiety through my chest, like almost like adrenaline basically. And he was tapping on my back, just going, just let that go, just cough. And I was just like, what on earth? Like, kind of like, I don't really know. And I just felt like so panicky. And at the end, I was like, I actually can't leave. Like, I just feel really funny. And I said, I think I need to cry. So when everyone had left, I went up to this man and I just like started crying. And then I felt so good. I was like, wow, I feel amazing. But I feel like I was just so disconnected from my body that I didn't even really appreciate that that was just like
Release.
and anxiety like coming up to be released. Like I just, if I felt that before, I'd be like, oh my God, how can I get rid of that? Not like, how can I feel what that wants? So yeah, I did like 3 sessions. And when I went home, I Instagram searched, and the only thing that came up was this thing called spinal energetics, which was fairly new at the time, which is basically created by a chiropractor from Australia called Dr. Sarah Jane Perry. And so I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to go to Australia. I was thinking about going to do a course, and I was like, well, I'm not going to spend all that money to go there. So then I had the crystal healing, did this other course, did the Reiki, and then in April the following year, she came to the UK for the first time. So I went to a group event and had the same kind of feeling, like my body was kind of moving, and I then cried to her at the end. And then I was like, oh, I wish I'd known that you were doing a level 1 course here the next week. And she was like, oh, all in divine timing. Then like a few months later, her PR reached out to me and she was like, oh, I saw you wrote this. I wrote an article about coming off the pill for women's health. And she was like, will you do a review for spinal energetics? And I was like, oh, well, I don't actually write for women's health, but I'll ask my friend. So this is why you should always not just say no, find another way. So I asked my friend who did write for them if she would let me do the session and she'd write it, and it got approved. So I got a one-on-one with the founder, and she was like, oh, of course it's you, divine timing. And I was like crying for like 24 hours, whatever she is doing to me. And then I'm just thinking, so now in July 2024.
Tori, what happened to the chiropractor guy?
That was kind of the end of that. He lived in Spain.
Didn't someone die?
No, that was the tarot reader.
Yeah, I remember.
That was last year. So that's actually also so sad. So he died in the Air India plane crash. And yeah, I'm so gutted because I look back at that reading and I tell everyone about him. And I feel like his influence was such a big part of my journey. And it's like, whenever I tell this story, it literally starts with him. And I'm very sad I can't go back for another reading because his reading was amazing. So yeah, that was the tarot reader. Yeah, sorry, this is such a long story.
No, it's good. It's interesting.
Yeah, so then I can't really remember what happened in between, but then in December I did my Reiki level 2, and then now we're in 2025. And basically, I think March 2025 I did my spinal energetics level 1. So I finally did the training. And it was from having so many sessions. So spinal energetics basically works with your body's nervous system, the spine, and your body's energetic field. So we all have an innate intelligence thing that beats our heart, tells us to go to the loo, that we're hungry, heals a cut. Did I just say that? No, I didn't say that one. And we've just never really seen what that looks like physically. But where our bodies know how to release tension. So when we go through something that overwhelms our system, so as a child, for example, if you cried and your parents didn't come, then that need not being met can feel really overwhelming for a child, having to soothe yourself. So that can get kind of stored as tension. Also, anything like at any time when you wanted to use your voice but you couldn't, or it wasn't safe to, or someone was, I don't know, I can't think on the spot, but
someone tells you that you're too much.
Yeah, and so you hold it back, and that energy doesn't just go anywhere, it gets stored in the body. So if you felt frozen, if you wanted to run away but you couldn't, that fight, flight, freeze response gets stored in the body. And that can over time create symptoms like pain, tension, even like postural differences, neck headaches, jaw tension, etc. And that can contribute to anxiety, insomnia, because there's all this energy that it's been mobilized, but it hasn't released. And where am I going with this? So, spinal energetics basically works with the person's spine to tell, I guess, the nervous system that it's safe to release something. And then your spine, the innate intelligence of your spine, will sometimes move, sometimes you'll just be still. But it's shifting and reorganizing those tension patterns so that you can let go of what you don't need to hold on to anymore, basically.
Wow. And do you think that's helped your anxiety?
Mm-hmm. And in an interesting way. So obviously, like, as your body processes things that it maybe didn't have the capacity to process in the past, you have like shifts in perspective. So a lot of the time that would come to me through dreams. So one of those was the anger dream, and then I just suddenly was like, oh, I look at things differently. But over time, it's like just the way that I guess you could describe it as like the things that happen to us, they have like, then you have a specific way you see the world because of that. Whereas when you reorganize something and you store it away differently, that perception can change of how you see things. And so even I think it really helped with the whole anxious person. Like I saw it as something wrong with me. Whereas now I see it more as like, okay, like have I eaten enough today? Sometimes if I have a blood sugar drop, you're like this.
Yeah.
Have I overdone it this week? Am I pushing myself? Like sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, I'm pushing myself out my comfort zone this week. It makes sense that I'm easier to snap.
Yeah. So rather than looking at it as who you are,
What is wrong with you kind of thing.
yeah, it's an experience. And I guess for that, that can be taken into sort of so many different areas, isn't it? Whether you're, struggling with change, like you and I have sort of this whole identity crisis of going from sort of PR powerhouse to spinal energetics practitioner. That's such a huge transformation for you. And the same with me in this whole like becoming a mum and this whole career pivot. I can't describe to you how like, and well, you and I have both had endless chats about it, but that difference between who you once were and then becoming who you are now, that journey can be so scary, can't it? And like so much anxiety and things like that can come through. But I'm sort of assuming, and I guess that I've done Reiki, I've done hypnosis, I've done a lot of things, and like read lots of books to be able to do a lot of inner work to be able to get me from here to here. But now I'm here at this like new journey of not necessarily doing social media management. In fact, I'm not really at all anymore. I'm moving into who I'm next going to be. Now, when I look back at old me to now, I'm like, of course, like you just do it. Like this has been my journey. But now you're like, when you forget that actually there's this whole other journey, and now I'm sort of looping to that. That's a whole different. It's like I feel like I'm back to the start, sort of thing.
Yeah, I totally relate to that, and I think it's like the journey is like never ending. It's just new layers get presented to you. So I think I really like the idea that we spend so long thinking, oh, this is who we are, I'm stuck like this. Obviously, unless you genuinely think you're amazing. But then I feel like if we are wanting to change something, there's probably something about us that we're frustrated with. So having this new perspective that you can change the way you are if you aren't happy with it, or having compassion for the way you are, can also help that shift. For example, being like extra sensitive. Like I used to be like, well, I still am. It's not like I'm suddenly fixed from all of this, by the way. Like it's just I have this bird's eye view on it, so I can catch it in the moment. But that thought of, oh, why can't I keep up with other people? Like, why do I get overwhelmed and tired? That kind of thing. It used to become this spiral, whereas now it's just having more compassion and working with yourself. But on the change thing, I think we get really comfortable and like so what I noticed was I was like, oh, I'm this girl boss doing this PR company, and I realized like actually that a lot of that was keeping me comfortable because I didn't have to see anyone. I could plan calls when I wanted to do them. I could plan my day. If I wasn't feeling up for anything, I could literally not have a call. I could not see anyone. I can not have any confrontation, not have to put makeup on, like all these things that I was just super hyper independent, working in a way that kept me safe at home. But actually, part of me really craves community and going out and speaking to people. But I was actually not doing that because it felt safer not to like overwhelm myself. So now it's like working on this new thing of being like, oh, I've got to put myself in new situations.
Yeah, and it's scary, isn't it? I can totally relate. Social media management, I am behind the scenes of the brands. I'm not in person, but if you look at
Mm-hmm.
me as a teenager, I was in all the drama performances. I was the school governor. I was always up front doing stuff. My personality is the reason why a girl at school told me I was too much and I was annoying, is because I'm meant to be doing things like this. I do believe I'm meant to be talking at workshops. I'm meant to be on the internet. I'm meant to do things like that. But I built a world that enabled the not good enough and the safe
Exactly.
flow to live, where I was still dipping my toes in it, but I was so behind the scenes. So like I was inviting influencers, I was letting other people step onto the
Yeah.
stage, if you like, and I was still involved in it, right? Which I think gave me that sense, like it was sort of like a bit of a dopamine hit, like that check box is like, see, you're
Mm-hmm.
still doing it. But I was like safe to not be seen, and I could easily, like you, just sort of hide behind the scenes again. And I think that is where I'm now in, oh, I can feel it in my body. I can feel it in my chest of like saying it out loud is scary, especially as I'm posting this to the internet. Is like being like, nah, I actually do want to do this for myself now, but I still don't know what that looks like. And
Yeah.
just knowing that that's what I want, but not knowing the journey feels really hard when
Yes.
you've built, like you built such a successful business. I still can't get over like, I, it's really, my ego is really struggling with the change. It's being like,
Mm,
why can't you just keep growing what you had? You were earning so much money. And now, like, part of me as well feels a bit selfish. Like, I feel like there's like an element of like, why couldn't you just be happy with what you had? But I think you and I have spoken about it. It's like when you do the work that we do and we're putting everyone else on the stage, especially PR, right? And same with
mm,
social media, when you're building up other people and other brands and you're putting all of these people on stage, it gets to the point where you're like, actually, I would like a slice of that. And
mm.
actually, like, I do have something to say, and I don't just want to have to say it for other people.
Yes. And I think it's like you just becoming aware of those things. So becoming aware of what, I think that's like the first thing is people are just like, oh, it's just the way I am, or this is what I do, or I'm not creative enough to start a business, or I am not good at public speaking, so I couldn't do that. But if you actually ask yourself deep down what you actually want to be doing, and you kind of let yourself visualize that, you like, we create all sorts of dreams that we'd like to do, and then we go, oh, but this is safe, this is brings in money, etc. And obviously there are times when you're going to have to be realistic. You can't just like not
Not
make money, for
yeah,
example. But like, I just think there's so much potential out there, but it does come with overcoming these things. But I
yeah,
think just knowing that you can shift them if you want to, through a bunch of, whatever you choose to do, coaching, energy work, there are ways to change your life.
yeah. I have always think about, one of my biggest fears is I don't want to be really old and saying to my kids, I would have loved to have done that. Or
Mm,
like my grandkids to be like, you should go and do that because I would have loved to have done that. I look at my mum and my stepdad are actually brilliant. They climbed to base camp, Mount Everest base camp, like last year or 2 years ago. And they very much live a life of not wanting to look back. Wish I would have done that. And but you see it all the time, don't you? And my fear is that I'll be a grandparent and I'll be like, oh, I wish I did that. I wish I
yeah.
just gave that a go. Like, I wish I just fully went for that. And I think it's so easy to stay safe and to stay where you are. And I guess it's the same with sort of overcoming like disordered eating or anxiety or some. It's so hard to picture what life could be like, isn't it? Because it's so scary to make those changes. But actually, when we tap into what it is life could look like and then make slow steps towards that, fuck, life could be really, really cool.
Yeah, and you don't have to change everything in one go. Like if you look at that journey, I just started to trust those little coincidences, and I'd be like, oh, I wonder what this is going to lead to, because I'd look back and be like, well, this led to this, led to this. And so I was still, fully doing my job and things, and I would do like a weekend course of something, and then 6 months would go by, and then I'd be like, oh, I'm going to do this other course. And by the time 3 years has gone by, I've got like a bunch of different courses. I've kind of got a bit clearer on what I want to do. Like, you don't need to suddenly be like one day, okay, I need to quit my job and I have no idea what I'm going to do. It's just like slowly making those moves, posting on social media, like taking up a hobby that you want to do, or just putting yourself in kind of, that you don't want to completely overwhelm your nervous system, but putting yourself in situations that slightly stretch you.
And I do think that the universe, if you allow it, will nudge you.
Yes, as we know, because literally last year, I remember. So now we're like, yeah, I got married in August, September. We did a London and abroad wedding. But in May, I remember being like, okay, I need this much money until the wedding, and after the wedding I'll take a holiday, and then I'll start this like new job, or I'll start doing a bit of it. And then as soon as I'd said that, everything just started falling away. People were like, I need to pause, I'm closing my business, all these things. And suddenly I was saying, no, like I'm not ready yet, I need this money for. And I remember like I was just so attached to everything that I had, and it was just being ripped away.
Tori, that's
And
what's happening to me now. I have literally said the same things. I said, right, I know. So in December, I know I need to make a change. So I cancelled a few contracts that like just didn't align. I know I need to change. So I'll cancel those. I'll carry on, and then I'll enjoy the wedding, enjoy the honeymoon, and then I'll start in June. Literally, since I've done that, it has just been ending of contract, reshaping of the business, boom, boom, boom. Now I'm here. Like I said, I've never earned so little, and it literally feels like the universe's way is being like, stop fucking waiting, just go and do it.
I know, but it is really scary. And also when you go and do things, then more stuff comes up. So like now I'm like, okay, I need to like show up on social media, and then I spend the whole time being like, no one cares. Why, and then it's like, but this is where people give up. Like this is actually really hard, like to spend months earning like less than you're comfortable with, or posting and nobody's viewing it, and but like one day I trust that something will come along, an opportunity from that post that you did, or I don't know, something, and
Anything.
you've got space for it.
I actually was sat at the gym this morning, and me and my friends were laughing about the fact that they were like, oh, what are you doing today? And I was like, well, pretty much unemployed right now. Like we were sort of laughing, like they knew that a client had cancelled their contract yesterday, and like we were sort of laughing about it. And I was like, I'm a lady of leisure. And we were laughing and joking, and they were like, just like you will sort, like it will all happen. And I was like, yeah. And do you know what? I'm going to sit here and I promise you, when I'm on Grace Beverly's podcast, where actually, I think, did my friend say 5 years? And then we were like, fuck it, let's do 3 years. In 3 years' time, when I'm on Grace Beverly's podcast, I'm going to tell this story, and we're all going to laugh. And then my other friend, Nay, was like, yeah, and then can you take us to Ibiza on a boat? And I was like, yeah. I was like, so in 3 years' time, we're all going to laugh about this situation, about how I'm laying on this sofa, like, what do I do with myself? Because I'm a lady of leisure.
Yes.
And I can
I
tell this
love
story on the
that.
Grace Beverly podcast. And I won't lie, even just that, like, jokey 10-minute, not even 10 minutes, it was like 2-minute conversation where I was like, yeah, love that. And like, Katie was like, you need to write a book. And like, we were just like joking around, like, what topic or books would you talk about? Just those little, just raised my vibration enough that I was like,
Yeah, it's so exciting, like to give like the possibility. And I've also been to like a few psychics, And I've been told I'm going to write loads of books, but you know, when you're like you said, you can't see the path ahead, you're like, well, I
And
kind of have an
also,
idea, but
my mum said to me, so she was a financial advisor. She retired, God, how old would she have been? She retired in, how long ago was lockdown? Maybe she retired around 50-ish. She'll probably be like, I'm not that old, but whatever. But she retired then, she sold her business, and she was very successful financial advisor. And she said to me and gave me a reality check, and she was like, Chloe, I didn't become a financial advisor until I was 35. And I was like,
yeah,
whoa,
I know.
you
I
think
think
all of
these
these
people
people,
now.
look, Mel Robbins is another good, like, brilliant example of that, where like you just see her at the top of her game. Well, I'm pretty sure it was like X amount of, like, it wasn't that long ago that she was in debt and she didn't have a platform. And like,
I know we see so many people on social media who are like in their 20s and like killing it,
yeah.
that it does put a lot of pressure. And actually, yeah, it can
And I actually
start
think
later.
it's made me excited to get older. I'm like, yeah, I'm not even in my prime yet.
Yeah. I also, yeah, I just think as well, you're on the journey that you're like perfect timeline. So it's all happening as it's meant to. It's just being able to sit with the discomfort. And that is actually really hard. But I really can't wait to look back at this, because we've both said it. And I keep saying, like, I can't wait to share this story one day. That, you know, I was just waiting, hoping, like letting myself sit, like, am I gonna have no money, like, am I gonna make anything, is anything gonna happen? And then one day you'll look back and be like, wow, I can't believe, like, I'm so glad I trusted.
I cannot wait. Let's save this video, and in 10 years' time, we'll get
Yeah,
together and show this. It's like, we'll have a Bieber Chella moment. We'll have it
yes,
where he watches back.
yes. We'll watch it on YouTube on the big screen.
Yeah.
As I'm a worldwide motivational speaker.
Yeah.
I'm actually really proud of myself today, because I didn't actually prepare. Usually, like, when I do like speaking stuff, I always have like what I'm going to say next to me, because I'm like worried that I'll forget what I meant to say. And today I was like, I'm going to take this as a challenge to show myself that I can speak like without
Really?
anything. And I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Tori, thank you so much. This was quite literally a WhatsApp, an extended
Yeah.
note, wasn't it? I love it so much. I love hearing your story. Guys, if you want to listen to Tori's story more, she's done like a Saturn Return series on her Instagram, and it's really interesting. I was obsessed with that series. It's so interesting to see like the growth that you've experienced and how you're still on that journey, and that it's okay to be on that journey, and to the journey's not going to end. But I am very excited for your future. So I will leave all of your details down below. I'm sure there might even be someone that's sort of southeast way that will be interested in spinal energetics. So thank you so much for joining me. It's been great. And I'm sure we'll probably be on again soon, won't we?
Yes, thank you so much.